welcome to a very special program with just days left before three key states, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, go to polls. We've been trying to gauge the mood of voters in all three states on a host of issues. Now, this is being done in partnership with CSDS Lokniti, who actually do all the hard work, go get us all the data, while we sit here in the luxury of this studio and analyze the results. Be that as it may, the poll conducted is extensive. Tonight we look at two states, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, and broadly speaking, we'll be looking at themes related to the performance of governments, key election issues which have been identified, the big faces that's such a huge factor in Indian elections, and how voters respond to government schemes, state and centre, when asked about how effective these have been. Then, of course, there's the crucial caste factor, which in any election in India often underwrites a political calculation or an election equation. It is all quite vast. Before we get to the data itself, let me introduce our panelists. First and foremost, Sanjay Kumar, psephologist and professor at CSDS, the man behind this data, along with a very large team that actually spread out, not just to Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh, but Rajasthan, which we looked at yesterday. Avinash Kalavita, Shankar Iyer, Manisha Priyam with me in the studio, Radhika Khera of the Congress, and Pratyush Kant of the BJP will be with us as well. But before we actually get to the poll of Madhya Pradesh first, and that's what we are going to be doing over the next 1.5 hours. We'll be looking 45 minutes at Madhya Pradesh, 45 minutes at Chhattisgarh. But I think it's important we start up by looking at the methodology. So in terms of the methodology in Madhya Pradesh, the dates in which questions were asked were between the 24th and 30th of October. 30 constituencies were covered. The sample size was more than 3,000. Sanjay, this was done face-to-face. That's important because people weren't picking up the phone. How does that add to the value of the answers?
Vishnu, I think two things needs to be told to the viewer. One, the sample may look small, but it is a purely randomized sample. If you do a purely randomized sample, that ensures that your sample is purely representative of the voters of the state. So we have a purely representative sample. So that's very important for any survey. And you have rightly said, these are all face-to-face interviews. Investigators have traveled to the houses of these people who have been interviewed, and none of these interviews have been conducted on telephone. I think these are the two things which adds value to this survey.
All right, well, let's quickly get started on Madhya Pradesh. Lots of graphics coming up, but a lot of things which a lot of you would have wanted to know about. So let's start on the issue of performance. How are people assessing the incumbent government in Madhya Pradesh, the BJP government? Let's just start up with that, with these points. How do you rate the Shivraj government's performance? Fully satisfied, 27%. 34% said that they were somewhat satisfied. 16% said that they were somewhat dissatisfied. And 18% said they were entirely dissatisfied. How do you rate the central government's performance? Will this be a factor in the minds of people at the state? Well, 34% said they were fully satisfied with the centre's performance. 31% said they were somewhat satisfied. 16% said they were somewhat dissatisfied. And 13% said that they were fully, entirely dissatisfied. On the issue of Kamal Nath versus Shivraj, the big faces as far as Madhya Pradesh is concerned, at the state level for sure, who performed better? 34% of those polled said that they believe that the Kamal Nath government had done better. So we're not looking at them personally, we're looking at the governments that they were in charge with. The Kamal Nath government, 34%, the Shivraj government, 36%. People satisfied with both governments, 13%, dissatisfied with both at 11%. How do you rate the Shivraj government on governance? So we asked about, for example, the state of the roads. 55% said that it had improved the roads. 28% said no. Electricity, 54% said it had improved. 24% said that it had worsened. Water supply, 43% said that it had improved. 32% said that it had worsened. Government hospitals, 36% said that government hospitals had in fact improved. 33% said that it had worsened. So fairly narrow over there. Government schools, 41% said that government schools were better. 24% said that government schools had in fact worsened. So by and large, as you can see with these trends, when it comes to government schemes or programs in key areas, by and large, it's positive for the government. We are not done though, because here's an important factor. Let's talk about women's safety. 36% said women's safety had improved, but as significantly, 36% said that it had actually worsened. So is this a factor? One of the points we'll be looking at. And as far as law and order is concerned, 36% said things had improved, 30% said things had worsened. We're going to move on now, take a look at what's worked for women. Women, such a key part of any election. Well, who has worked more for women is the question. 9% say the state government. 16% have said that it's the centre which has worked. Both 41%. So the large majority say that it's the centre and the state which have worked for women. And 16% said, in fact, no one worked for them. The state of inflation, this is a perennial issue across the country, and very often the answers reflect the state of the economy and concerns. So as far as the state of inflation is concerned, 82% have said that it's increased, 8% say that it's remained the same, 8% say that it has decreased. The state of unemployment in the country, 45% say that unemployment has gone up, 28% say that it's remained the same, and 19% say that it's actually decreased. The state of corruption, again, a perennial issue for elections, and certainly in Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. 61% say that it's increased, 20% say that it has decreased, and 14% say that it has remained the same. And decreased, we've got a statistic as well. I believe 20% have said, as you can see that over there, it has decreased. Now, the central government has worked, rate the centre on curbing corruption. So how has the centre done? 34% say very good, 33% said good, 15% say bad, 8% say terrible, very bad. The question which was asked was, rate the state government on curbing corruption. 24% say that the state government has done very well, 39% have said good, 18% have said bad, 10% have said very bad. So a fairly high count over there for the state government. So let's quickly move on and get a couple of answers to a lot of the data that we've actually shared over there. Manisha, let me come to you first. Now, 61% say that they're either fully satisfied or satisfied in the performance of the Shivraj government. Is that, in terms of the issue of leadership, a resounding yes for the BJP government in Madhya Pradesh?
I mean, two things. One, on the satisfaction point and even on the leadership point, the figures seem to match and say that the people there don't really have a strong problem with the Shivraj Singh government. Looking at the figures on satisfaction, highly satisfied and more or less satisfied, they do cross that mark. And when that overlaps with their satisfaction with the central government, you do tend to get an impression that there isn't a genuine grievance against the BJP either in the state or at the center. That's what the figures would look like.
I'm going to move on to another key statistic over here. Kamal Nath versus Shivraj, and it's just, approximately a 2% gap in terms of popularity on the basis of performance between the Chief Minister and the Congress's main face. So people seem happy with the performance of the state government, but it seems to be a close fight between the tallest two leaders. Shankar, would you like to come in on this? That at the personal level, what Kamal Nath has done in the past and what Shivraj is doing now, the gap between the two is quite small. However, as far as the performance of the BJP in terms of governance this time is concerned, most people say, tick mark, yes, they've done well. How would you look at both of these factors?
Well, it's very interesting that, Kamal Nath didn't rule for very long, and Shivraj Chouhan has been there for quite some time. And there seems to be a nostalgic fondness for what Kamal Nath did. He gets 34% for a very short tenure. Shivraj Chouhan, on the other hand, seems to be getting only 36%. Also, there is, on the face of it, from all the slides that you've shown, Vishnu, is there is no, on the face of it, no anti-incumbency per se. I think this is more a bipolar personality issue. Bipolar is the differences between the central government and the state government. Bipolar in the differences between Kamal Nath and Shivraj Singh Chouhan. I think what would be interesting to see is how the economic factors play out. I think the slides on inflation, unemployment, corruption, all of them point out to great distress at the bottom of the social and economic pyramid. And I think that is where the challenge is, which is why you see multiple voter benefit schemes being unrolled, a lot of emphasis on who's getting what. Those are the things that I think will determine where Madhya Pradesh goes.
We're going to come to those in just a moment. But I also just wanted to point out on roads, electricity, water supply, government hospitals, schools, those polls say things have improved. But on women's safety, there's an equal number, 36%, who say that things have worsened. When it comes to the vote of women, which is crucial, and this is a question for you, Pratyush, is this not a concern that, you know, a large percentage, 36% of women say that on the issue of women's safety, things have actually worsened?
See, you have to look at his whole tenure, Mr. Chauhan's tenure, in a whole larger picture. What has really worked for him is that the education budget, when he took over, was like barely 2,456 crores, 2,456. Now it is 38,000 crores. The Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan is now 7,000 crores. So all these things have helped women get literacy. It has helped women in every way of life. So the biggest question which we face is about the increasing crime, as people say. But you have to trust, he's a very hands-on chief minister. So many at the block level, district level, lot of new initiative has been put by him. And that is the reason why you will see that even after so many years in power, he is as popular as he was. Because when you give health sector improvement, when you give money to education, all these things eventually comes back as development. And Shivraj Singh Chouhan's government, under the guidance of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government, is going with a report card of his development, of the work he has done.
Okay.
Rural electrification, toilets, all those things are working. That is why you will say, as the election is closing there, you will see BJP improving by the day.
Okay, Pratyush, we'll get to a lot of those points and schemes, but on the issue of women's safety and security, I think it is a bit of a concern, but we'll address that in a little while. I just wanted to go back to Radhika Khera. Radhika, on the key issue, in terms of the data which we presented, 61% say that they're either fully satisfied or satisfied in the performance of the Shivraj government. If that is the case, some would suggest that the Congress might just be in trouble.
Good evening, Vishnu. But there have been enough surveys that took place in the previous elections also, which completely wrote off the Congress party, whether it was in Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, or Rajasthan for that matter. And every time, all those surveys were proved wrong, all opinion polls and then later the exit polls. And what eventually happened, what we saw in the last election in Madhya Pradesh was a chori ki sarkar. And the way the Bharatiya Janata Party showed red eyes to democracy right in the face and said that hum to sarkar girayenge no matter who the people choose. So I would not go by these surveys. Like I said, they've always been against the Congress.
No. Radhika, just so that let me jump in over there and let me tell you, Radhika, there's a lot more data you've not seen because we've not presented it. This isn't against anyone per se. If you actually go through a lot of what will come up, you would likely see that there's a lot which works for the Congress as well. So let's not shoot. Let's not shoot the agency which has done it. They've done a very comprehensive one over here. I'm just trying to point out that on the issue of people saying that the state government has done work, a lot of people say yes. But at the same token, the gap between Kamal Nath and Shivraj Chouhan is just, 1 or 2 points. So that is an interesting divergence. How would you look at that?
Like I was saying, I'm to repeat myself again, in the previous election also, they had, I remember the Chhattisgarh polls, and also over here, people had, even in Madhya Pradesh, the polls had said that Dr. Raman Singh is the face and Shivraj Singh Chouhan is the preferred face, and it's going to be a thumping victory. But that did not happen. And Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh are neighboring states now, and they were won earlier. So whatever happens in both these states affects each other as well. But I will come back to that. Like I was saying, that many polls, I will read out the list of the polls who projected Shivraj Singh Chouhan as the preferred place in the previous elections as well. But the end result was very different. So I would not go back because the ground reality is very different. Where women's security is concerned, because we're talking about women's security here, Madhya Pradesh has always failed the women of Madhya Pradesh. Just look at the number of seats that Madhya Pradesh has given to women. If Bharatiya Janata Party has given to women, they have not even lived up to the 33% reservation bill that they talk about, that they have got the reservation bill.
We'll talk about these issues. I'll bring more graphics too. But Sanjay, I think you have a right to respond to that. A query from Radhika saying that, we don't believe these polls. How would you respond?
No, I think she has a right to agree or disagree.
Sure.
I can't make a request that please agree to these findings or to say don't agree with this finding. I think we have put out the methodology. Sample is small, as I said, but it is a representative sample, and one should understand what is the data which we are referring to or discussing. It is a people's opinion attitude data, and the data says on the issue of women's safety, it's a divided opinion.
Yeah.
Half of the people say it has come down and half of the people in Madhya Pradesh say it has improved. This is a limited data which we are discussing at this moment. And if on this point, if you want to disagree, if you want to say that you don't believe on the data, she has every right to do that.
No, I think I have another input to give. I would say
quickly,
that...
Manisha, before I move on, yeah.
No, I would say that Shivraj Singh Chouhan had an impeccable image of the mama, and he opened his doors, girls could go and complain, and one of the claims he had was that you could move safely on the roads. If I were the spokesperson of the Congress, which I am not, I would have said that this erosion in figures about a key element of his image as mama is something that would worry me, even if 3,000 randomly sampled people are saying it.
It is a matter of concern.
There is a matter of concern there. That's how I would look at it.
Let's just quickly move on now to the next set of issues, the next set of graphics, the next set of data, which deals with important issues for people in the state. So what is the most important election issue is the question which was asked. 27% have said price rise, 27% have said unemployment as well. Poverty, 13%, a lack of development, 8%, corruption at 5%. Other issues, 20%. Farmer discontent, again, we'll look at that as closely as we can, given our time constraints. 53% say it's very important, 22% say somewhat important, not much, 17%. The government recruitment scam, is that an election issue, is what people were asked, and 43% said that it is a very important election issue. So therefore, on the issue of corruption, this one, the government recruitment exam scam, 43% said very important, 24% said somewhat important, 19% said not much. Is reservation an election issue? 34% said it is a very important issue, 24% said it is somewhat important, 26% said no, in fact, it's not. The Uniform Civil Code, is that an election issue? Is that something that bothers you? 17% said it is very important. Somewhat important is what 18% said. So not an extremely high number over there. Not much is what 25% said. Cow protection, is that an election issue? Is what we asked a lot of people across the state. 36% said, in fact, that it is very important. 22% said it's somewhat important. 26% said no, not very much. Should Madhya Pradesh hold a caste census? Right? And that's a critical issue across the country now. Huge political ramifications. 44% said yes, 24% said no, 32% said they can't say at this stage. What we're going to look at next, but that's coming up, and I want you to stay put for that, is the entire issue of the big faces. But before we get to that, let's look at some of these graphics. And Shankar, why don't you just, let's look at a couple of the important ones. For example, price rise and unemployment are equal at 27% as an election issue. Interestingly, it's the Aam Aadmi Party which has said that they'll have an unemployment allowance if voted into power. The BJP is focusing on skill development. Do you believe that the issue of unemployment could be an election clincher?
Well, if you range the slides on corruption, on the recruitment issue, on paper leakages, on unemployment, on affordability, on inflation, then it's very clear that a large part of the state has there is distress at the bottom of the pyramid. This is a largely agrarian state. There hasn't been much industrial development, at least in comparison to its neighbors in Gujarat or Maharashtra. And so there is the factor of aspiration. There is also promises made and not delivered kind of thing. And Madhya Pradesh has been part of the old Bimaru state club. Things have improved now. But two factors, Vishnu, point out the reason why there is a lack of investment and why there is not enough job creation. And that is basically law and order and the women's safety issues. These are markers that companies and others look at. If you look at the campaign,
yes,
both Kamal Nath and Shivraj Singh are promising schemes. Kamal Nath is promising to write off loans further. Shivraj Singh had an interest waiver for farm loans. So all of these point out that there is a genuine problem of affordability, which sort of you can look at it as unemployment or you can look at it as inflation.
Sure.
Actually, it's a combination of both.
Avinash, it's interesting that while 63% say that the performance of the government has been good or very good in curbing corruption, it seems that the government recruitment scam remains an issue with, 34% saying that it's a very important issue. It is a concern. How significant is this, in terms of perception, and how would you look at that statistic?
See, Vishnu, you said the paper leak scam, and then we look at unemployment. If you club the two, A, the government is not able to give more employment, and B, whatever little it could afford to give is marred with corruption. And that is going to affect, because listen, a government is going in. Shivraj has been there for close to 2 decades, barring a small 15-month period. So over a long period of time, when you have a voter fatigue, and then you also have these issues which affect the youth, you are in a sort of trouble. And that is one of the reasons that the Congress is thinking that it might turn up. They are looking at, in all their promises, also to give more employment and things. So I think unemployment and lack of development and corruption, they all three combined together do raise a question, because agreed that all pointers are saying that Shivraj might look good, but when you go to the ground, you feel that it's not the same situation. Travel away from the capital city, and there are issues that concern people. So I think corruption and unemployment would be a concern that would bother Shivraj Singh, because he has been around consistently. You just can't say that I've been around. If you look, what is the difference between Shivraj and Kamal Nath? Kamal Nath was just there for 15 months, but still has got a good approval rating, 34 points for him, whereas Shivraj is 36, so the lead is not too substantiable. So I think these are numbers that should bother the BJP.
Pratyush, if you look at the issue of farmers being discontented and whether that's an election issue, 53% say that it is in fact a very important issue, the entire issue of farmers. Is that something which the BJP would be looking at very, very closely? I know that you've had many schemes in place already, but in terms of reaching out to farmers, making more promises, is that something which you believe might result in your doing well?
More than 4,000 crores has been dispersed to the farmers who needed the money. You see, you have to understand how BJP in Madhya Pradesh functions. We don't promise, we guarantee. And when we guarantee, we deliver. 70 schools, Eklavya schools, directly benefiting the farmers and their families. There are so many things happening at the ground level which people overlook here. To stay in power for such a long time doesn't happen without development. Today, we are going, all top leadership is there, they are contesting elections, a lot of people are there. We have so much to show in Madhya Pradesh. From farmers to women to development at the lowest level of the system. It has all happened because Shivraj Singh Chouhan ji has been a hands-on chief minister. He had a clear vision, he was in touch with people, and then people of Madhya Pradesh has been seeing two things. You must make a note of that. The fight between Digvijay Singh and Kamal Nath and the corruption surrounding Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, scams from Karnataka, Rajasthan. People are very wise today. You are not, Madhya Pradesh, don't look at Madhya Pradesh in isolation. Madhya Pradesh has examples to give that we will become like Chhattisgarh if Congress comes to power. There is corruption. Now you take money from betting scam people also. People are seeing all
just
that.
On that point, I haven't understood. Madhya Pradesh will become
Chouhan government
like
is also delivering. It's also delivering.
Madhya Pradesh will become Chhattisgarh. You mentioned in what context? I haven't understood that.
In corruption, sir. In corruption, sir. This is what people are seeing. They are seeing Chhattisgarh turning out to be the most corrupt states when the chief minister is directly
we'll talk
involved
about corruption
in taking
in Chhattisgarh in the next part of the program. But let Radhika reply to
some scamster.
Okay, I get your point. Radhika, would you like to reply to that, saying that corruption is an issue? Yeah, dodging the Congress across the country.
Very unfortunately, the Bharatiya Janata Party spokesperson has not done his homework well. Sir, I would like to remind you, when you're talking about corruption and your election department that has just labelled out the chief minister's name and said that you should read the election department of yours, the ED's press release, which says these are matters subject to investigation. They have not been investigated yet. It is the Chhattisgarh government which has issued a lookout notice to get those people arrested in Dubai. But your government, the centre government, whose responsibility it is to ensure that those people are arrested, are still not done and they're still absconding. It is the centre government's responsibility to ensure that the Mahadev app is banned, yet it continues to flourish under the rule of the Bharatiya Janata Party Modi government. It is not in the hands of the state government. And it was your government, 15 years of Dr. Raman Singh, that was lived in corruption, jise kehte hain. And the same thing is happening in Madhya Pradesh also, where it is the students since 2018. So the constable, sub inspector and constable की भर्ती के तक आप लोगों ने वहाँ पे नहीं निकाले. The exams have taken place. The youth have crossed the age, waiting to give the exams. And it's not just that, even in medical, everywhere.
Okay. All right. So several examples that you raise of corruption. It's one party's word versus the other. I think that reflects the fact that is going to be certainly a big issue in the states we're looking at. We're going to actually come back after a short break, and once we do that, perhaps the part of the MP analysis which a lot of people would be looking at, Shivraj Singh Chouhan, his personal popularity, what about Kamal Nath, all that and a lot more after this quick break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Faces and Schemes is what we are looking at in our public opinion of Madhya Pradesh. And on this program, we'll be looking in a little while at the state of Chhattisgarh as well. We've looked at various aspects of Madhya Pradesh. We've looked at the performance of the government. We are on now to the popularity of the leaders, the big leaders. Now, in terms of what the leaders actually have to say, let's bring up those graphics on our stage right now in terms of who should be Madhya Pradesh's chief minister. That's what we are looking at this stage. 38% Shivraj Singh Chouhan, 34% are in favor of Kamal Nath. Let's move on now with this set of graphics as we look at the entire issue of faces. In terms of other names, Jyotiraditya Scindia at 4%, Narendra Singh Tomar at 2%, anyone from the Congress at 6%, anyone from the BJP at 4%. So really, Shivraj Chouhan and Kamal Nath, 4 points, percentage points, separating them at as far as who should be Madhya Pradesh's chief minister. On the issue of party versus candidate, what matters more? 37% say the party matters more, 30% say the candidate matters more, 10% say it's the chief minister's face that matters, 10% say it's the Narendra Modi factor, and 5% say it's the Rahul Gandhi factor. Based on the BJP's Jan Ashirwad Yatra, who will you vote for? We're looking at various schemes from at this stage. 57% say the BJP, 33% say the Congress, 10% say others. Based on the Congress Party's Jan Akrosh Yatra, who will you vote for is the next question that we asked. 41% said it's the BJP, 49% said it's the Congress, 10% said it's the other. It is a Congress scheme program, the Jan Akrosh Yatra itself. Did Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra help the Congress? 38% said yes, 22% said no, 40% say that they cannot say. This is interesting because this is different, in fact, from what we saw in Rajasthan yesterday. The Mukhyamantri Awas Yojana, who will the beneficiaries vote for? 59% said the BJP, 38% said the Congress Party. The Ladli Behna Yojana, who will the beneficiaries vote for? 48% said the BJP, 42% said the Congress. The Kisan Fasal Bima Yojana, who will the beneficiaries vote for? 46% said the BJP, 42% said the Congress. The Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, who will the beneficiaries vote for? 57% said the BJP, 37% said the Congress. The Ayushman Bharat Yojana, who will the beneficiaries, who do they favor, who will they vote for? 51% said the BJP, 40%. The Ujjwala Yojana, who will the beneficiaries vote for? 48% said the BJP, 43% said the Congress Party. Now, these are central schemes. Obviously, they affect the state government, and in almost all of them, there is a strong sense that these have gone down well. But let me just come across to Avinash once again on the issue of the big face, the big name. 38% versus 34% in favor of Shivraj Singh Chouhan when people were asked who should the MP Chief Minister be. How heavily is the Congress therefore banking on Kamal Nath, particularly since 61% seem to have been happy with the performance of the Shivraj government?
It's a big gamble for the Congress, but he's their only hope. He's their only leader who has got them into power once, and he's the one who's been ruling the roost for the party in the last 3.5 years that they've been out of the power. But it's very important and heartening because, Vishnu, one more figure that you showed was that close to 30% people vote based on candidates. And that is also going to be very important, looking at that the fact that Shivraj has a clear lead despite being in power for 18 years. There are 74 such seats in Madhya Pradesh where the Congress hasn't won in the last 3 elections. So their chances of, even banking on Mr. Kamal Nath's faith is reduced a lot because there is a huge chunk of seats that they have not won. And if we compare a similar number for the BJP, there are only 11 such seats that they have not won in the last 3 consecutive elections. So a 38% rating for Shivraj Singh Chouhan is a very, very strong number for the BJP. They should fancy their chances here. Whereas the only glimmer of hope for the Congress is Mr. Kamal Nath, because the other names that even what we look, the remaining 2 are also from the BJP.
Manisha, would you like to add to this? Resoundingly in favor of Shivraj Chouhan at a couple of levels, while the gap might be quite small, relatively small at 4%, the fact that governance, and when people were asked about governance, more than 60% said yes. Add that governance along with his name being the favored one, it seems to be people are okay with what has happened so far.
So I agreed with this at the beginning and would continue to agree with what I've said. But just the figures, if you look at it, I'm surprised with the schemes when you show it. All those schemes are either centrally sponsored schemes from the center, Pradhan Mantri, Awas Yojana, etc., or the Ujjwala scheme. Now, that the Congress should be getting any figure at all on those schemes, that surprises me. Look at the Mukhyamantri Awas Yojana, clearly a scheme of the incumbent sitting chief minister, 59%, 38%. So why is anybody who's getting the CM's housing Yojana even saying that I'm going to vote there? Now you similarly see for the Ujjwala Yojana. So I would say that at this point of time, Definitely, Shivraj has been able to buck a lot of the anti-incumbency with the performance of the schemes and whatever traditional image he has. But there is something working on the ground.
This is close. See, 48-43% in the Ujjwala scheme.
Why should anybody getting the Ujjwala Yojana, and the Congress in Madhya Pradesh has not been raining schemes like Gehlot has been in Rajasthan. So the point is that not being in a seat of power and still grabbing the share surprises me. And that share is not small, like 2% or something. It's quite there.
Sanjay, how would you explain that? All these schemes.
Look at Ladli Behna Yojana, which is just 1 second.
When a voter goes out to vote, this is not the only consideration. You have several considerations in your mind. So what the data indicates is that you are the beneficiaries of that scheme. But if being a beneficiary does not mean that you are going to give all your votes to BJP. So there are several other considerations. Party is an important consideration. Candidates is an important consideration. If you look at caste by voting, that's an important consideration. So you have one vote and several considerations. So may not be people who are trying to vote, who intend to vote for Congress, even if they are a beneficiary of either Ujjwala scheme or any other scheme of the BJP government. Maybe the consideration may be very, very different. Maybe they are looking at the party, they are looking at the chief minister.
Vishnu, one small point, the figure for Ladli Behna, which is...
Let's pull up that figure for Ladli Behna.
It's being touted as a trump card. And the one image of Shivraj Singh Chouhan that I remember is the Mama image. And there are girls cycling on the roads who have told me in earlier elections that we can even knock at his door and he or his wife will listen to us. Now look at the fact that you have 48% to the BJP and 42% for the Congress. I mean, why on earth should a Labharthi of the Ladli Behna be saying that equally I'm going to go on this side as much as that? So clearly there's something more behind the figures that needs to be understood, and there may be multiple reasons, but the fact is that people are split and divided and they are thinking this or that.
We haven't had time to discuss this because I need to move on, but it's important that we just covered that 38% say Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo has helped the Congress government. It's interesting that in some states, Rajasthan for example, that's not something which people have favored. But in the case of Madhya Pradesh, it has. But is the impact of that fading? Is that something which is going to be a real factor? We'll have to wait and see. But let's move on now to socio-economic factors in these elections. And let's just run through some of the graphics that we have over here. So in terms of demographics, socio-demographic factors in these elections, 46% of women say that they're going to vote for the BJP. 44% of women say that they'll go with the Congress. So the BJP narrowly ahead of the Congress. That is extremely significant, but it's a trend that we've seen, or a pattern, in Rajasthan as well. The BJP picking up among women voters. In terms of men, 41% say that they'll vote for the BJP. 41% say equal that they'll vote for the Congress. That's all very interesting. In terms of the rural-urban divide, let's look at urban first. 55% of people in urban areas will vote for the BJP. 35% of people in urban areas will vote for the Congress party. In rural areas, 39% will vote for the BJP and 44% will vote for the Congress. If you look at this in terms of a couple of socioeconomic markers, poverty, for example, 35% will vote for the BJP. Significantly, 48% will vote for the Congress. If you look at those in the lower middle class strata, 38% will vote for the BJP, 44% for the Congress. If you look at the middle class, this is a core strength of the BJP, 50% for the BJP, 38% for the Congress party. And among the wealthy, 63% will vote for the BJP, 29% for the Congress. Among the tribal population, 36% for the BJP, but much, much larger for the Congress at 53%. And finally, if you look at Muslims, 6% for the BJP, a traditional area of strength for the Congress party at 85%. Now, let's take a look at something which underwrites all elections or in our country, certainly most of them, the caste factor. Now, if you look at the OBC community, 50% are in favor of the BJP, 33% are in favor of the Congress. Among Dalit voters, 32% are in favor of the BJP, 50% for the Congress. And when asked if their condition has improved, how do you see the condition of Dalits and tribals? Dalits say 30% of Dalits say that their condition is improved. 36% say that their condition is worsened. As far as the tribal population is concerned, 29% of those who were asked questions say that things have improved. 34% say that, in fact, things have worsened. Which party do farmers support? 43% say the Congress party, 36% say the BJP, and 21% say others. Let's just go across to Sujata Paul of the Congress party, who joins us at this stage. Sujata, 46% of women polled say that they will vote for the BJP, 44% for the Congress. So it's not bad for the Congress party per se, but this is a trend that we've seen in Rajasthan as well. More women are supporting the BJP. Is this an area where the Congress is losing an advantage that it used to hold?
Certainly not. Just wait and watch, and women are going to go all out and vote for the Congress party. Because if you look at Madhya Pradesh, the Anganwadi workers, the women in the rural areas, they are all out on the streets. Why? Because the government has not even, agreed to having talks with them. And if they have issues, they should be spoken to. But across communities, women want the Congress party because they have seen both governments now. And the last time around, the manner in which the government was brought down in Madhya Pradesh, that is something that the women are upset about, as are the men. So women voters are certainly going to be voting for the Congress party. They definitely want your cylinders at 500 rupees. If you remember, in Rajasthan also, the Prime Minister doesn't know what he's saying. He says that we'll give you cylinders for 600 rupees. So what is the rate of the cylinders going to be in Madhya Pradesh? 600 rupees. But is it going to solve the problems of women as far as their children are concerned, who have no employment? There are paper leaks, and there are so many other issues happening in Madhya Pradesh.
Sure.
The scam is there to haunt them. And if you notice what they've done, they have said they have got their MPs, their ministers to contest elections. And this is such a farce, because one nation, one election is what they talk about. Supposing all elections were to take place now, would these people be contesting MP elections or MLA? Okay. And that means that these people are not going to be there. It is on Mr. Modi's name that they are going into elections, and Shivraj Chouhan,
and that name considerably ahead of Rahul Gandhi at this stage. I mean, that was one of the points that we looked at. 5% for Rahul Gandhi, 10% said that they would vote in favor of the BJP because of Narendra Modi. So that is a factor.
That's fine. So that means, but people are also recognizing another thing. See, it might be different when it comes to Lok Sabha election. You can project Mr. Narendra Modi, but is Mr. Narendra Modi going to be the chief minister? That is a question that people are asking, and people should not be underestimated. After so many years, now people are understanding what the BJP is all about.
Let's see what finally happens. But Shankar, I wanted to come to you on this. There's a massive jump of the BJP, 20% over the Congress in urban areas, while the Congress has a 5% lead in rural areas. Why is the Congress in Madhya Pradesh not an attractive option for urban voters?
I think the question is really, why is the BJP not a preferred party for voters in the rural area, considering that they've been in power for 18 years? And so if you look at the caste configuration, the slides that you showed, the Dalits, the tribals, the farmers, these make the bulk of the rural population. Then you add the issues of unemployment, you add the issue of inflation and corruption. So there is a commonality across this. And either there is a lot of anger at the second, third quintiles of the population against the party. I mean, maybe they want more. I mean, in a lot of the slides, you see the Congress getting credit for schemes that are state government schemes or BJP schemes, as Manisha mentioned. But probably they expect that the promises of the Congress are higher. The farmers issue, for instance, Kamal Nath is remembered for the loan.
Avinash, I'm just going to ask you to, I'm just going to go across to Avinash for a second, Shankar, on that issue of farmers before I move on. You know, farmer issues have been huge in MP. 43% in fact say that they back the Congress. From farm loan waivers to the non-availability of seeds, fertilizer shortages, etc. The Congress and the BJP have really been going at each other on this, sparring at each other. How important, Avinash, do you believe that this farmer issue will be in these elections?
It's certainly going to be very important, and farmer issue is something that Congress is harping on in all three states, even if it is Chhattisgarh, or we look at Ashok Gehlot in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, because ever since the farmer right agitation took place, that vote bank has been moving away from the BJP, and the BJP has been trying all its ends to get that vote across. And the communities that are there in the farming community are also moving out, like call them the Jats or the rural population. So they are all moving out, and that is the serious concern for the BJP, that they are not able to get farmers together. So it's not just a matter for Madhya Pradesh. We have seen that in Rajasthan as well as in Chhattisgarh. All these three states, Congress is banking a lot on the farmer support this time around.
Well, that's what we have so far as Madhya Pradesh is concerned.